welcome everybody. It's another exciting edition of the Sports Hole. I'm your host, Luke. With me, as always, XFL Jim, rock and roll Matty Goldberg. Matty Goldberg looks like he's been eating some butthole over there. Got a big spot on the end of his nose. What gives, Goldie?
I'm glad Jim didn't notice it.
I shouldn't comment. I notice it.
Jim's just being polite.
Thanks, Jim.
I'm a nice guy, Matty.
You know what it is? I had like a little cut, and I've been like scratching it when I go to sleep, and I'm waking up, it's just like bloody. So I'm an idiot. I'm a mess. I'm probably nervous at night, and I'm scratching my nose, and it's embarrassing. I got to go out tonight, and I'm like, this is embarrassing. I put a Band-Aid on it today. I saw my mom, and she's like, why is there a Band-Aid on your nose? So I had to be like, I have a cut there.
They have like those little zit stickers now which are accepted in society, like those little stars.
I should get some, but I have no way to get to a CVS. Maybe I'll put some cocoa butter on it right now.
That's what's funny too. You could put the star on your nose, and you can also identify as Jewish. So when Sauce Gardner sees you, he'll know that you are one of the rulers of the world. Did you guys hear that?
I saw it in the rundown. That was my first time seeing it. It's kind of insane.
So Sauce Gardner was on some podcast. I think a Jewish guy was hosting. He's like, "Y'all run the world." What are you talking about?
Was he saying it jokingly?
I don't know, but it doesn't matter because in this day and age, there are no jokes. Good thing he plays in New York where there are zero Jews, though. So
actually New Jersey, but no, I didn't see that. I didn't hear about it, but
don't worry, guys.
Eddie,
he clarified his comments. And he received support from Aiden Ross. So
who's Aiden Ross?
He's a Jewish he's big in live streaming, man.
Yeah, I don't really give a shit.
Yeah.
Has Julian Edelman weighed in?
Ooh, probably.
Not yet.
It's not over till Julian Edelman forgives you.
Oh, it's because he was on his stream. Okay.
Oh, he was on Julian Edelman's stream.
No, he was on Aiden Ross's stream.
Okay, so whatever.
Aiden Ross.
Whatever. These guys, they don't know. Like, I live in a back house. As my nephew says, I live in a back house that's messy.
Is that where you run the world from, Matty?
I pull the puppet strings of the sports world.
What's the weather going to be like in the next coming days?
Well, I
control the weather too, right?
Because I'm mad and the ladies have not been into me lately. I've made it really cloudy and miserable and snowstorms. And I'm just fucking with you all.
Here are the clarifying comments that Sauce Gardner posted on Twitter.
Yeah.
I love all people, including Jewish people. The majority of my agency marketing team are Jewish.
Of course.
And I talk to them almost every day. You probably just took what I said the wrong way, but what I said was meant to be a good thing.
Yeah.
LeBron did the same thing
a few years ago. Yeah.
He's like, I want that Jewish money. He's like, I didn't know that was a thing.
The majority of my agency / marketing team are Jewish is like one of the funniest lines I've ever fucking read ever.
Well, because I'm a fan of the Dabbleverse. The guy Tukey he was in a fight with Stuttering John about being sued, and he said something really funny. He goes, I got the best Jewish lawyers money can buy. He's like, I got a team of Jewish lawyers. You better watch out. So all good.
He should have went like, yeah, most of my agents are Jewish. The people at TNT and ESPN are Jewish. Adam Silver's Jewish.
Yeah.
The people who run the media.
Well, Roger Goodell's not Jewish, I don't think.
No, but that's right. I guess he's football, but it's still funny if you just start naming Jews in power until you make your point in a backwards way.
Also adding, they got so much motion throughout the whole world.
Look, I love you, Sauce.
Motion is like running, right? Like
no, it's a new kid thing where it's just like they got a lot going on.
I think Sauce is having a little fun. Like, sometimes you say things, you're having a little fun, whatever. Don't care.
No, God, growing up in Michigan, it was like if you ever seen Gran Torino, God, it was like,
oh yeah,
everybody just calls himself, and you just get along. You don't it's not a big thing. So nowadays,
I mean, when I was a kid, all we would do was make fun of each other by our races, our ethnicity.
Sure. Of course.
So like my Italian friend was like, you fucking Ginzo spaghetti banging motherfucker. And like, he'd say, why don't you go eat your matzo ball, you little Jew fuck. Sure. And then we'd suck each other's dick or something. No, we didn't do that.
That's great.
We had a friend that was Irish. We call him like you know, it was some pretty nasty shit. I don't
You
want to
could say
it.
white people slurs, Matty. It's okay.
Yes.
You
Matty, say some
honky
white
ass
people.
chicken
Yeah.
cracker motherfucker.
Yeah, those
I-
just don't have the same
No,
flair.
I used to bowl with like this old senior British guy who was like in his 80s, early 80s.
Yeah.
And he would just bring out like the Italian slurs, the
Yeah.
German slurs, Polak, like everything.
Oh, yeah.
He would bring them all out.
I mean, when we were kids, Polish people were like the dumb people. So
Yes.
every Polish joke was like that they're dumb. And it's like
Yes.
I've met some Polish people and they're intelligent to me, but it was just like Polish people are dumb.
I think that I forgot. I did have a Polish friend that explained to me where that came from once,
Yeah.
and I forget.
And by
Like
the way, you can take that out of context for me.
yeah.
Like,
No, I'm going to snip it.
Yeah.
Where it just says Maddie's saying Polish people are
Post that
dumb.
on our TikTok.
Yeah.
And then the Polish Defamation League will file a complaint, but probably forget because they're too dumb, right?
Well, yes, it is what it is. But it's crazy. Like, so much is going on the last few days in sports, and I kind of want to lead off on baseball. I know March Madness is good, but like, I gotta complain about baseball real fast.
Sure,
How
no, we're
the
in
fuck?
this.
And I mentioned this last week, but I can't because now with the Otani shit, it's getting real. Like, kind of, it don't look good. But it's like you start your season at 3 a.m, which is so stupid in Korea, and now your flagship player, the biggest guy in Major League Baseball that you're trying to market yourself with, is in a crazy $500 million gambling scandal.
Yeah,
it's a goddamn mess.
So what's the deal? His interpreter stole money, but then his interpreter saying that it was sent from he sent it to a bookie, but because Otani told me to, right? Is that what the story is?
I think as Chris Carter said back in the rookie symposium in the NFL, get yourself a fall guy.
Yeah.
So this guy might be but I don't know. I mean, Jim just said Otani's probably innocent. I don't know. I don't know how you could, get in that situation where a guy rips you off of like $500 million. It's like,
no, it was 4.5.
Yeah, it was not 500 million. It was 4.5.
He hasn't made his 500 million.
4.5 is a lot of scratch.
It's a lot of money.
But if you make like 20 mil a year,
that's still a lot of money.
It is still a lot of money. Don't get me wrong, but
that's a quarter of your yearly income.
God, I would never check my like Vanguard accounts if I had that much money. It's like, why would you bother looking?
I mean, it's just baseball's in bad shape because it was America's pastime, and I'm thinking like even in America, I think soccer might be passing baseball in popularity.
Well, ESPN is now trying to get out of their contract with MLB.
That's hilarious
too. Yeah, so I don't know. Baseball, see, this is why they open up in Korea, Matty, because they need these to sell the television to foreign countries because it's declining so much here.
And these countries love baseball. Like Korea loves baseball. Japan loves baseball.
Anywhere we've occupied, we've brought baseball. That's why
That's actually true. That's very true.
That's why you see it. There's a tradition of like the Reds are always the first pitch. There's something beautiful about opening day as a child. It was always like waking up and like the eternal idea of spring is here and summer is soon, and I don't know.
Well, fuck that idea, Matty. It snowed where I'm at literally yesterday and today. So fuck spring and fuck summer.
It was only 75 here today, Jim, and sunny.
This is bullshit.
Bullshit. Hey, you moved back there. No one put
I had to move back here.
Yeah.
Did you?
Yeah, I did.
Why?
Because of COVID, dude.
Well, listen, Jimbo.
I lost my job.
I moved to Palm Springs in COVID.
I was unemployed for a whole year.
Jim, I'll be in Vegas, and I think I'm trying to get Luke to join me.
Yes.
The last week of May. So you come here, I got a bed for you.
No, that's when I'm going, like the UFL championships in May. So that's my trip for May. I'm going to be in St. Louis.
Vegas?
No, it's in St. Louis.
Are you going to St. Louis or Vegas?
I'm going to St. Louis. I'm going to the championship game.
If you change your mind.
Okay, if I change my mind. Okay.
Yeah.
We'll leave it at that.
That sounds like a no.
It's probably going to be I'm going to go to St. Louis.
Well, if you change your mind.
Matty, maybe you'll change your mind and go to St. Louis.
I don't know. I got to get this hotel soon.
Damn right you
Well,
do.
why are you waiting to get a hotel room, Matty? Because I feel like you wait a lot on these things. Like the Ween tickets were almost unpurchasable by the
Yeah.
time you pulled the trigger on that.
Yeah, I'm gonna purchase it. I got a little extra money. I won $600 playing poker on Friday, so I'm happy about that. Chopped in a tournament for first place, so that was pretty cool.
Dude, just make your reservation. You almost never have to pay up front for all that.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're right.
And the
Yeah,
rates are just
man.
going to go up. More people that are going.
I watched a lot of college basketball. It was fun. I think there's been years that games have been absolutely like buzzer beaters all over. There wasn't a lot of buzzer beaters. The high seeds dominated, but there was some fun. There was some upsets. There was the kid from Oakland, which is Michigan. I don't know
Gold key,
where.
Yeah,
baby.
Oakland County.
So where's that compared to like where you're from?
That's on the other side. That's Oakland County. That's where like Detroit is and all that. So that's their school, Oakland school. So a lot of people have gone through that school.
Yeah. Well, that kid he went 10 for 10 and threes. He has the weirdest shot. He shoots it like a hammer.
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't know if you watched him. It's this weird delivery. Like, and it's like unblockable, and it looks kind of like he's a spaz, but he was just draining him. And I'm thinking Calipari, the type of players he's getting and the type of like it's just not working anymore. You're better off getting less one and done guys.
He doesn't do the transfer portal. Like he has the same
No.
issue that Izzo has. Like
Yeah.
they just don't like using the transfer portal.
But also, like, if you get one and done guys, they're very raw at 18, and then a lot of times they get good as the year goes on. They get better, but a lot of times they don't. And you're better off having guys that are going to be there for 3 or 4 years that are not exactly blue chip prospects, but you're putting together the best team.
It's not
Yeah.
even necessarily that, but like just getting in seniors. Like I think Illinois has a bunch of transfers, but they're all like 22, 23-year-old dudes that have been playing basketball forever.
And by the way, I've been crushing the overs on Illinois. Like they are just up and down the court. They have that one star. What was his last name? Shannon, I think. He's a definite NBA player. They're a lot of fun. I have 3 futures left. I got Illinois at 30-1. I got Iowa State at 20-1, which the two of them play each other. So that's friendly fire. And then I got North Carolina 12-1. UConn looks like they haven't even played anybody yet. They
really haven't
yeah.
played anybody. They played Stetson and they played Northwestern. And Northwestern, I'll give credit. Throughout most of the year, were really good.
Mhm.
Boo Booey, like their star, like they're a one-man team basically, did not have the best tournament.
His name is
Well,
Boo
I
Booey.
Yeah, it's awesome. Love
I
him.
think
Love
what
him.
happens though to a lot of these teams that win a tough first game, they have no legs for the second game. And UConn, like, you know, they haven't like they look like a college football team. Like,
91 to 52 and 75 to 58 are
no offense to Michigan, but it's like they just lined up 2 cupcakes to just scrimmage against.
I will say this
Start the
though,
year.
San Diego State, that's a tough team, especially in the
And
tournament. They're
it's a
consistently
revenge
good.
game because they beat them in the championship last year.
Yep.
Matty, I got some fun trivia for you. Do you know
Sure.
one of the most famous graduates from Oakland University?
Gosh, in what field?
In the arts.
So he's an actor. Or,
His name is Curtis Armstrong. You might know him
from
as Booger.
That is wild.
Yes, Booger.
I've seen him in a grocery store a few times. The Gelsons, where I live, I've seen him a couple times.
Oh, has he been there?
Yeah.
Oh, he's the man.
You know, he's been in everything from Risky Business.
Yeah.
To Better Off Dead.
Oh,
One of the great scenes where he snorts the snow and he goes, "This is pure shit."
So, how are we
Dudley
feeling about John
Dawson.
Calipari, guys?
It's time to go.
Yeah, I mean, probably time.
I heard Antoine Walker on Jim Rome this morning, and he was basically echoing a lot of the sentiments I've been saying about these teams is that you just can't win with all these freshmen all the time.
No.
You know,
Yeah,
these superstars are great and they get a lot of attention.
You need transfers.
Yeah. If
You
he
also
could
need
just
good college players.
get like 2 blue chippers and get like
Yeah.
a couple forced, and then get the rest like
Yeah.
4 stars that are going to stay there a few years and develop,
Exactly. You
and
really do.
transfers. Yeah.
You need a one guy to shoot threes. Like Illinois got a 3-point guy, and that's all he
Yeah.
does is shoot threes. Then you need your star. Then you need a really good big man, and to kind of all balance it out. But yeah, I mean, there hasn't been that crazy moment. Maybe Oakland beating Kentucky, maybe the Northwestern game. I got Northwestern money line at halftime. They were plus 165 the first game, and that was a good hit for me.
Mm.
And
The
I was like,
crazy, I think the crazy moments, Matty, are like the storylines and narratives people are going to take.
yeah,
Like how the SEC has looked overall pretty bad
sure.
the tournament. Like
Hmm.
both Kentucky and Auburn getting knocked out first round, not great.
Now what?
AC,
Yeah,
ACC, almost everyone alive. The Big East, everyone is alive. All the Big East teams are made it to the Sweet 16.
and they all have shots. I mean, Creighton is good. They played a bad game and they survived a game where they probably should have lost to Oregon. And I'll say about Auburn, I root for Auburn because I like Bruce Pearl. I wonder why. And it was sad watching them at the last 10 minutes. They just couldn't execute. They couldn't hit a foul shot. They couldn't make a layup. You just saw the pressure. Some of these teams, the pressure gets to them and they just die. And that was a tough loss. And yeah, the Big East is pretty darn strong. It's really rebuilt themselves, and UConn going back is a big deal. And I mean, they are the cream of the crop in basketball right now. It's going to be hard to beat them because
Only got
they're
3
deep.
teams in though.
Yeah, but they're deep and they haven't really had the sweat yet. Maybe that's a bad thing. I don't know.
Creighton kind of did.
Creighton had a massive sweat.
Yeah.
They had to score at the buzzer to beat Oregon, and Oregon had 2 players that could score.
I'm excited. I think every Sweet 16 matchup is going to be a banger.
Yeah, and all 4 number 1 seeds are still left. Houston had a big scare. Purdue has coasted. North Carolina had a little bad moment against Michigan State, and then they coasted. And then UConn hasn't even played a game yet, in my opinion.
I was going to say, who's had the easier run so far, Purdue or UConn?
Probably about the same, but UConn is just it's 25 points at halftime.
I think Purdue would have had a worse matchup against TCU if TCU made it.
Yeah, I mean, TCU shit the bed, and I like their coach. Jamie, whatever his name is, he's a good coach. Yeah, I don't know. It's I'm still waiting for that crazy game that's gonna just fuck your head up, and there hasn't been one yet.
Houston will probably be playing in it because they just play crazy. That game versus A&M was awesome.
Well, that was wild too because both
haymakers back and forth.
They're defensive teams, and they put up 180 points. Granted, it went to overtime, but they put up 160, 170 points in regulation.
Houston had 4 of their starters foul out in that game.
They hung on because that last 3 was epic.
The entire overtime, they had 3 of their starters that were fouled out.
Yeah. And everybody was like, if it gets to overtime, they're fucked. And they were able to win the game. So
that was a great game. Fuck
so
Texas
Michigan
A&M,
hired Dusty May from FAU.
I think it's a good
hire.
hire.
How should Michigan fans be feeling right now?
I think it's a good hire. FAU they had a really good run last year.
I like it a lot.
Season this year. Yeah,
he's a good coach. I mean, it was probably either going to be him or the guy from San Diego State.
He has Big Ten ties too, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Well, he was assistant under Bob Knight.
Yeah.
Love it.
He's tough.
Yeah, but I think it will work out. I mean, they made the Final Four last year, 2 tournaments in a row for a small college. Yeah, I like the hiring.
Also, I loved Wally Zerbiak chiming in on that Virginia game where he said it was just unwatchable.
Just like every Virginia game, they suck. I hate them.
Somebody
it's
had
good
a
because
shirt.
it probably broke them, so now they have to revamp.
Yeah, somebody had a shirt that said Virginia basketball is Iowa football.
Yes.
Well,
Like somebody
Virginia has a
actually wore that
championship to
shirt.
show for it, though. So,
Yeah.
whereas Iowa doesn't.
They never
Doesn't
won
have
the Big Ten recently,
I
have
mean,
they?
I
No,
also
did they
want to
not?
say,
no,
do you guys have
Damn.
YouTube TV?
Yes.
I don't.
YouTube has done a great job with
Yeah, they let you pick the games.
You have 4 boxes, so you can watch all 4. I got
Oh.
big TV, and it's so much better because for years I would get one game, and then you would have to flick back and forth, and now you can watch all 4. It's beautiful.
I think they
Can
let
you like flick back and forth with them, like choose a highlighted game and then bring it up if it's
Well,
coming
you
down?
can, yeah, you
Yes,
can flick
yes.
to the
You can just
announcers.
toggle over. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you
you
toggle over it, and that does the audio, and then if you click it, it just expands it
Oh,
to that
cool.
solo game.
Oh,
It's
cool.
really cool. They
Yeah.
did it. I think even for the basketball, you could pick which games because I was seeing people split between like the women's tournament and the men's tournament
Oh, wow.
and having them both up, which was really cool because I had that feature. It was on during football, but you couldn't pick the games. You were stuck being like, these are the 4 games that you're watching, and every
Right.
time one of them would just be an absolute like blowout that I didn't
Well,
want
what
to see.
I would do is
Right.
I have an iPad, so I'd have 4 games on. iPad would have 2 games on, and then my computer would have another game on.
Yeah.
I'm a psycho motherfucker when
You're
NFL comes.
insane, Matty.
It
Breaking my
feels
brain.
good that there's no football for another 4 or 5 months. It's a good break.
Shut up,
Win
Matty.
it
Shut the
all.
fuck up. Go. No, we're done. I'm done. There's football literally this week.
Next week,
There's
what's
actually
the first matchup?
technically there's been football going on if you care about arena football.
But so what they're going to do is they're doing the. Also, I want to give. I predicted this. And you guys know this. A few months ago, I said the NFL would incorporate the XFL kickoff, and what they do today, for everybody who shits on the XFL, they are going to use their kickoff rules next year.
It's also really funny because the UFL is not using those rules this year.
That's so weird.
They're using
Really?
they're using the USFL's kickoff rules.
What is that?
I'm looking it up right now because
But
it was
they
similar.
haven't
Basically, they just moved it back. So the USFL kickoff rules: kicking team members must line up within 1 yard behind the 20 and must be stationary when the ball is kicked. Receiving team must have 8 to 9 players in the setup zone. Blah 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 blah. Which is between the 30 and 40-yard line.
Okay.
A touchback still places the football at the 25-yard line.
The one thing I wish they did was, I wish they did the onside kick rule in the XFL because
that would also be sick.
I think it's like 4th and 20 or something from your 20.
It's 4th and
15.
Yeah, 4th and like 15 or something like that.
They should have done that. The onside kick is basically
it's a coin flip. It's luck.
It's not a coin flip.
It's just bounce based.
It's 5%.
No, that thing never works anymore.
Yeah, it's a 5% success rate.
I will say this about the XFL kickoff strategy.
I like it better.
97% returned. Like 97% of kicks are returned.
That's
Trust
great.
me.
That's better. It's been just such a formality for a long time now, too.
Well, I'm a fan of it. I've seen people online because it comes like that news comes after the hip drop tackle rule. So just like football's changing. Don't love it. But
I
think the kickoff is a good
drop
rule.
Tackle rule.
It has to change a little.
I don't know. Like
the biggest injuries and the biggest chance of a paralysis are those guys just running into each other, and that's what you're going to prevent. So I'm all for it.
That doesn't prevent people running in. Oh, you're talking about the kickoff.
The kickoff. I'm talking about we're talking about the hip drop tackle.
I don't really get what exactly is a hip drop.
I look for a bunch of videos and I'm like, it's just a tackle from behind, but basically it's like an alligator, an alligator roll.
The tooth. Well, no, Luke, because the alligator roll is like still allowed from what they say.
Well, that is an alligator roll.
It's very stupid though. I don't get it.
You're rolling.
The rule states that you have to have your arms wrapped around the runner, the ball carrier's waist, and then you drop your you drop your hips down, and then twist them or something.
Okay.
Which I don't understand. I don't understand now how someone smaller is supposed to tackle someone larger than them.
Right. Yeah, that's what they talked about, especially like when you're trying to tackle like a cornerback,
like a
trying to
tight-
tackle a defensive
tight-
or a tight end. Yeah.
Tight end or a running back or
Right.
anything, or like a giant wide receiver.
Sure.
And
Yeah.
how are you supposed to tackle people from behind?
It's going to be ridiculous because somebody's going to make a great play and they're going to get flagged 15 yards.
Because
and you're just
the
going to do like,
waist is the natural place
Yeah.
to go to tackle. You know,
Yes.
it's if you try for a leg, you can easily miss. You know, like,
yeah.
but the waist
I'll
is
see how
good.
they call it. And I think the fans will kind of be the decider because Twitter, because if this is garbage and they start calling flags on good plays, like people are going to just revolt.
Dude, it's just for like. Okay, go ahead, Jim.
I was gonna say I've seen people trying to be like, well, this is like we need to move here. Like you see rugby people tackle like this. Well, like, yeah, football is not rugby. We don't need the same kind of rules. Rugby, it doesn't matter. Like the guy isn't trying as hard not to get tackled because he can always just toss it to the next guy down. You can always lateral. And you don't have these hard lines that you're trying to stop people from getting to. There's no first down line in rugby. Like there's these hard spots in football that you got to reach.
Right. So here's where I'm at. I feel like if they add a penalty, they should take away a penalty. Like you're just adding more friction to the game experience.
I said that, Luke. I said if you're adding this, take away the horse collar.
That's great.
Like
yeah, I think the horse collar is bullshit.
Play.
I don't think people really get hurt from
but
that.
there are plays where a guy will hit a quarterback and you're like, what a play, and they'll call a bullshit penalty, like it was excessive or whatever, and you're like, this is garbage. Like you're rewarding the team that got sacked, because the guy made an aggressive play that probably wasn't malicious, but it's an aggressive game.
This makes me stand up. This makes me stand on my soapbox and just declare that college football is better.
I'll agree. No, not really.
Last year they had a hell of a year.
On many levels, I would.
I will always
Last year was a hell of a year for college football. There were some classics.
It was. And I think that was the last year of what college football kind of was. And we are entering the new year.
We will see with the new Big Ten.
We'll address all that.
Yeah.
It's all UFL, baby.
All UFL going
now.
forward.
So it starts out with the two champions of the XFL versus the USFL.
On Saturday, that's right.
Who are those
what time?
teams?
The Arlington Renegades and the Birmingham Stallions.
Wow.
What time is the game?
It's going to be at, I think it's 11 a.m. Central, but I need to double check because they post everything in Eastern.
They're probably going to do it before March Madness.
What was that, Luke?
Where's the game at?
It's in Arlington.
Okay. So they're playing at their home places.
Yes. So they're doing what the XFL did last year, where they're all staying in a hub city, which is Arlington. And then they're flying out to the.
Oh. Okay.
So they are playing in the home markets.
Gotcha.
Noon, Matty. Noon Eastern. Noon Central. So
9 o'clock out here.
9 a.m. for you guys is when the opening game is.
Which is smart because you're not going against the NCAA college games.
And then they have a game at 3, so 1 p.m. your time.
Yeah. Okay, you're gonna live stream them?
I am gonna live stream. I'm skipping Easter this year.
I'll hop on if you let me. I got a bone to pick with your buddies.
Well, they're not hopping on because they celebrate
Matty,
Easter.
You can't. You're gonna eat so much shit for having that shit on your face. You can't. You gotta.
Well, I can't really eat. My diet's changed. I make chicken salads. I eat fruit now, and it sucks. Broccoli. Like food makes you happy. Like
it can cause a serotonin rush if you program your mind that way.
But I also look at pictures now. Like somehow my algorithm of like reels are like steak sandwiches and steak and like.
That's funny. Mine are all just like women lifting weights.
Oh, Luke, that's a good one.
That's
a good
page
to have.
Yeah.
It's pretty awesome. Get to see how the sausage is made.
Damn right.
The sausage Gardner.
The sausage Gardner. The liverwurst.
When is the NFL initiating these rules? Is that coming up this year?
Next year.
It's got to be this year. Yeah. Otherwise, why would they wait?
It is great, like that. The first XFL and the USFL. The NFL takes so much from these leagues, and they never come up with it themselves. And it's like people shit on these leagues. It's like, yeah, but the NFL took this and that. They took instant replay for the original. They took a lot of stuff from the
They
original.
took the sky cam. They took the sky cam from
Yeah.
it.
No, I think it's great. It's perfect for football because it gives when you have like it's hard to have like football's a dangerous sport, so it's hard to have a lot of experimental leagues, but to be able to have some that can actually produce new ideas that can add to the game and give some players who are still professionals a place to play and possibly get back in the NFL is great.
And
I
I
think it's
do
awesome.
like
Next up is the onside rule. That's my big
they
one.
need to go to 4th and 15.
And mic up the refs. Do it. I want to listen to these
They
calls.
get too much attention.
No, I want to hear what they're saying and why they make these decisions.
Is AJ McCarron back with the Battlehawks?
Yes, he is.
Good for him.
I think Joe Flacco's brother is on one of these teams too. I think he's on the Brahmas.
Wait, who's his brother?
Let me take a quick look.
I didn't know. Was his brother ever in the league?
His name is Scott Falco. He wrote a song called Rock Me Amadeus.
Oh, yeah, Falco.
Tom
Amadeus,
Flacco.
Amadeus, rock me, Amadeus, 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 rock me. You know that song, Jim?
I do, Matty.
Great
Amadeus.
song. He died. He got hit by a car, I think.
Yeah, car accident, I think, in Thailand.
Yeah, it sounds weird.
It's Tom Flacco. He was undrafted in 2020. Went to Western Michigan, Rutgers, and Towson.
Wow, 3 schools. Towson's in Baltimore, too.
So he kept, like, going down the line. I mean, Rutgers and
you go where you can play.
Skill, I guess so. Tommy Flacco.
Yep.
And the myth. All right, guys. Are we ready to head? Are we ready to cross the border?
Ooh.
Well, I'll just say one thing. I heard that your boy, the quarterback from Michigan, jumped up to the number 2 spot.
I hate that shit. Number 2? I don't.
That's the rumor. The Washington Commanders.
They're gonna take Jane Daniels. I guarantee you.
I'm just telling you, that's the rumor.
So what's going on with Drake May? Why are people falling off of him?
I don't like him at all.
No,
I like him. I still like him.
I don't know. I just felt like he's got like the tools, but he had so many weapons in North Carolina. There's times you're just like, is he processing stuff fast enough? All that nonsense.
I was watching a video on why it's so hard to assess a quarterback, and it just is almost impossible, really. Just because there's so many variables. It's like,
well, what do you think about it? Like, how many of these guys are even going to end up being a great NFL quarterback? What is it, like 1 or 2 every draft? It feels like.
I mean, look at the draft a couple years ago. We had Justin Fields, Zach Wilson, 5 guys. Trey Lance. They're all backups except for Lawrence, and Lawrence is kind of busting out. Like,
he's fine.
He's good, but like, there was 5 quarterbacks that everybody was jerking off to, and 4 are like, one's not even in the league anymore. Zach Wilson, Trey Lance is a backup. Justin Fields now is a backup. Mac Jones is a backup. I mean, everybody was so high on all these guys, so you just don't know. It looks
Zach
sexy.
Wilson's still in the league, my friend.
He doesn't have a team.
No, he's still on the Jets.
Okay.
I think they said they're going to keep him if they can't trade him.
If Aaron Rodgers gets hurt and they have to put Zach Wilson in again, it's just like.
Did they sign a backup? Did they sign a proper backup this year?
They did. I forget who it was.
What did they get?
Oh, Tyrod Taylor.
Okay.
Who's a good backup.
Yeah, sure. Of course.
I mean, he's a journeyman backup.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, he's a good backup. He's a great backup.
That's fine. That's fine. Yeah, I don't know. I said it last episode. I'd like to see JJ. I thought he was in a great position to land at a team that needed to look for the future quarterback, but not right now. We can sit a couple of years. He's too raw. I mean,
where would you want him to go?
New England's a good spot.
The Lions,
the Jets.
No, have him go to the Lions and sit behind Goff.
Goff
is way too young. That's right.
Goff is too young. You need
to
go
be there for a long time.
Send him to Seattle,
or just go to any place with a decent team. Wherever he goes, they should sign a good journeyman quarterback that can start. You know,
the Saints is a good spot.
If they don't have one there already. Yes,
send him to Seattle.
Like, I don't know how many years Derek Carr is going to be there.
Oh, did you guys see what Deion Sanders said about his kid? Yeah,
ridiculous.
He said his kid should. He said they're going to pull an Eli if they don't like the team that he gets drafted to.
But what? He's not even a number one
He'll be lucky
overall
to get
pick.
drafted. I mean,
They're
he's
saying
good, but
they're
he's
saying
not like,
Dion was saying he'll be a top 4 pick.
He'll be a top 20 pick.
He will be. I mean, this is a pretty bad as far
Dion
as we
needs to
know
focus
now.
on getting some fucking wins first.
Yeah.
Dion had all the hype and he took over a
It
bullshit
is wild
team.
what they do with these kids.
He's just
like
got to
LeBron.
win games now.
Like LeBron saying his son is an NBA player. It's like, let them just do their, don't put any more extra pressure on the kids and let them enjoy the college experience without, like, when you do that, people mock you and ridicule you. And it's unfair to his son that he's got to deal with that because LeBron put ridiculous expectations on him, in my opinion.
Well, those kids are handling it pretty well, I think,
Yeah.
But
Well, the thing with Shedeur, at least, is like, I guess they're in the privileged position of like, they don't need the NFL.
Those kids themselves have made a ton of money through endorsements and everything already.
Look, if you're the number 1 pick overall, you don't want to play somewhere and you're like a John Elway, I kind of get it. But Shedeur Sanders, he's a good player. I think he'll be a decent NFL quarterback. But
I could theoretically see him being a first-round pick, but I don't think he'd be a top 10 pick.
He's not.
I think this is a pretty weak class for quarterbacks.
Yeah, he's not Cam Newton. When Cam Newton came out, there's guys that were massive number 1, like no doubt about it, and he's not that guy.
No, but he's got his like. So I heard the conspiracy theory is what they want is they want to wait for McCarthy to get fired at the Cowboys, and then guess what? Joint deal. You get Dion, you get Shedeur.
Nah, Dion's got to win games first. That's
he's got to have one really good college year for that to happen.
Maybe it'll be this year, Matty.
It could be.
It might be.
Nebraska.
We'll see. Is Nebraska playing Colorado again?
Yeah, we play at Nebraska this year. I think it's week 2.
It's a revenge game.
Yeah,
it is a revenge game.
Yeah.
They also, I mean, the Big 12 is easier theoretically than the Pac-12 was last year. So
yep. Gotta hit my nose right now.
We'll see. But yeah, I thought that was funny.
All right, let's fucking do this.
Let's go.
On the dark side.
On the dark side.
God, I love that every time.
Dark Side of the Ring. Another exciting edition. This is a pure Dark Side episode.
Mm-hmm.
Terry Gordy, the big man from the Fabulous Freebirds. And I'm sure I will say Fabulous Thunderbirds at some point in this broadcast, but
I guarantee you will.
Like I just did.
Yeah, I remember it. Think of the Skinner song.
Yeah, I guess that's that. I mean, and that's how they explain in the episode. Terry Gordy, the legendary Fabulous Freebirds, as many of you older wrestling fans might know from all the regional circuits and
nothing more 80s than the Freebirds.
Freebirds versus Von Erichs.
Yeah, if you could take a time capsule of the 80s, the Freebirds would be like what wrestling, but kind of a little pre-Hulk Hogan. They were the kings and the first real cool bad guys.
Well, Hogan was around, but these guys were, going in and out of like WCW and
territories,
and the territories and stuff. But they were like bigger than any of the promotions they were in there.
Yeah.
So
they also, like for the Von Erichs, like they said in the thing, it's like for us to be super awesome, we need really badass bad guys, and they were perfect. They were
great. So Terry was like the big hulking man. Then you had was it Michael Hayes? Michael Hayes, who was just like the flamboyant hair guy, almost a Ric Flair type character.
What's interesting about Michael Hayes is when he went to WWF, he became Doc Hendricks. And he was totally a different character, and he wasn't like there. Everybody hated him.
It's always a shame when they take away people's personalities and try to hold them, like Shane Douglas and things like that, where they try to just fit him into a mold instead of just using what got him there in the first place. So Terry Gordy came up basically just as a wrestler. He was a hardworking prodigy, and he was a pro at 14.
Yeah.
And then imagine being a pro wrestler. And they said he was good too. It wasn't
Yes.
like he was just had a look or a size. He really was a student of the game and
Mhm.
really had some great athletic ability for being 6'5" and over 300 pounds. Eventually, ends up teaming up with Michael Hayes and forming the Fabulous Freebirds. I forget the third guy on there, and then there was a fourth guy
Yeah,
later
I
on.
forget his name. He
But he
was
was more
on
of a
it too.
veteran that was
Yeah.
help
Jimmy
leading them.
Garvin, I think.
Jimmy Garvin was the one that came in later to
Okay.
replace Terry when he was overseas in Japan a
Mm.
lot. But anyway, so yeah, so they had all these great battles with the Von Erichs, and then of course they get the call from Vince McMahon, and they were of course hard partiers. This guy, and they would
Yeah, they
beat
didn't
up a
last long.
bar, and their first meeting, they spent 1 week in the WWF, and Vince fired him after they were like at a meeting and falling asleep because they're all
Yeah.
hungover.
Yeah, but that's you also got fired too. This is wrestling. The Rockers, Shawn Michaels and Marty Jannetty got fired the first week too for partying too
Oh,
hard,
that's right.
and they
Yeah.
brought them back. But maybe the Freebirds were just too much partiers that
Yeah.
it wasn't worth it.
No, it was wrestling was still sort of a clean, that was sort of the clean era of wrestling too, when you wanted,
We also have to say that they were the first team to come out to music ever.
was that the case? I didn't know
That's what they
that.
said. They came out to Freebird, and no, as Cornette said, I mean, I'm not 1,000,000% sure, but he was like, "You never heard music before, and then you hear Freebird by Skinner, and they came out, and it was
Oh,
like it changed
interesting.
things."
I gotta
Yeah,
look that up.
That's
But it was
badass.
funny too, because
yes,
then Darkseid played some like weird knockoff version of
yeah. I don't
Freebird.
think they have the rights to it.
No, you don't want to play those. You don't want to play that song. That's going to cost you like 100 grand to play
I
that
know,
song. So
but it's a great song, and it like fits who they are, and it was part of their persona and their character.
yeah. So yeah, imagine like hearing those opening chords to Freebird
Oh,
and just
that
getting
chord,
chills.
yeah, it's like
So they got
a
fired. Of course, he goes to Japan and he takes off. His solo career just lights up in Japan because they love big physical guys. And he was like guy who could really sell a big punch and take abuse and things like
and he
that.
would hit you for real.
No, he didn't hit for real. He just sold it really well.
But I mean, it wasn't like he knocked the guy out, but it's like
Right.
if he's gonna punch you, you're gonna feel it.
Right. It's still a work,
Yeah,
but he sold it just
yeah.
amazingly.
There's stuff where you saw him like grabbing a guy's mouth and just like ripping his mouth open.
Well, they were talking about like how normal people would, okay, if you're going to do that hook in the mouth, they would just keep their hand there. Well, the guy defending it would, but then he was like prying at the guy's fingers, just little details you
Yeah.
wouldn't see from other wrestlers that really sold the matches in a much more exciting way. But while in Japan, he ended up tearing both of his ACLs. And that's
Ouch.
when the trouble
Still
starts.
wrestling though,
Yes, and then he's wrestling with 2 torn ACLs.
which we know in the NFL, a guy takes a good year to come back
Oh
from.
yeah, minimum. You're not going to see that guy unless he's Aaron Rodgers. If Aaron Rodgers tore an ACL, he'd be back by
Yeah.
the end of the season. Yeah. Anyway, so then he just keeps his profile keeps getting bigger in Japan, and
Mhm.
then he teams up with Dr. Death, Steve
Steve
Williams,
Williams, Dr.
whose
Death
career
from
was ruined by
Oklahoma.
that fucking tough guy match in the
Yeah.
WWE.
Oklahoma college football star.
That's right, Jim Ross's boy.
Yep.
And so their tag team is huge because they're just 2 big badasses, and Japan loves big badasses. And so apparently between his trips back and forth between the US and Japan, he would take these like sleeping pills and a lot of people would, because the
Yeah.
flights were so long and boring, and in your timetable, your internal clock would be way off. So
Well, you're trying to fall asleep from it goes off to when you land.
yeah.
So
And
you're taking a lot if you're going from Japan to
right,
America.
it's like time traveling,
Yeah.
teleportation, just falling asleep and waking up in Japan and being on a good schedule when you get there. But he overdosed, and Steve Williams just slapped him and woke him up, and that was the first overdose. And then later on, he overdoses again the same way, and this time he wouldn't wake up when Steve Williams was slapping him. This was always like I found this kind of ironic. Like,
Yeah.
imagine if you're like, well, who's helping my dad? Oh, there's a doctor. Yeah, who?
Yeah.
Doctor Death.
I know. Well, the thing is, like,
Assisting.
he lived the wrestling life. Like, to do what he did, you live fast, you have the glory, and then to hang in there, you gotta like take the pills. Like, you gotta all these
Well,
guys
this
are
was
doing all
like
this
just the
shit to
sleeping
survive.
pills too. These weren't even like the normal
No, I
painkiller
know, but it's
types
still
that
part
everybody
of it's
gets.
still part of the life.
I
It's still
guess,
part of
yeah,
the
yeah.
it's to do those flights that you're probably in pain too. When
Sure.
you're on them, you're just trying to get through it, and you become part of the life. And he's one of those guys that like had a lot of talent, was a great character, was a great moment in time for wrestling, but unfortunately, he absolutely lived the life where you do what you do to survive when you're not wrestling.
Yeah, and this one wasn't good because he went into a coma, and then he was just never the same after that.
No.
Like, he could sort of go through the motions in the ring just because he'd done it for so
Yeah.
long, but he couldn't cut promos because he was just basically slow now.
And Vince kept him on the roster. He brought him in and he made him
Yeah.
into a character called the Executioner, which they, as they say, they covered him because they wanted to protect his legacy, which I totally like because it
Yeah.
would have ruined his legacy. He was never the same, and his head was never the same. And instead of having him come out as Terry Gordy,
Right.
they had him come out as the Executioner, which was a bad character, but at least it wasn't Terry Gordy.
Yeah,
A lot
here
like
is
Earthquake.
right. Here's Jim Cornette talking about his experience working with Terry because he brought him back into Smoky
Yeah,
Mountain when he came out of the coma and stuff, and
sure.
it just wasn't the same. Here's our good
No.
friend Jim talking about it.
Just walk up to you, and he'd just stand there. Then you'd look, oh, Terry, do you need something? Yeah, Jim, I was just wondering if you'd like me to do the power bomb. Yes, Terry, if you'd like to, please.
So, Simple Jim, you make me happy. So yeah, that was kind of this episode was kind of this episode was very sad because normally
Yeah.
like there's just a progressive downfall, but this was like basically this thing happened and then he was just slow from there on out, and it was just a very different person in
They
and out
showed
of
a
the
shoot
ring.
interview like before he died, and he was
Yeah.
very slow. And it reminded me a lot of like when they would interview Scott Weiland before he died. And you're like, this guy is just a shell of himself, and it's just
That's
a matter of
so
time.
weird. You brought up
Yeah.
Scott Weiland. I've had Wicked Garden in my head for like months for some reason.
I want to burn on your wicked
And then the other
garden.
night I got home and my wife was already asleep. And normally we watch TV and fall asleep. And I just
Yeah.
put on my headphones and I listened to Wicked Garden
Are
once
they a
and
good
went to sleep.
band?
I think they are. And I think they got unfairly maligned,
Because
including
the
by people
first
like
song.
myself, because
Yeah.
they came out after Pearl Jam and he
Yeah.
did have some similar characteristics, singing
Well, they had the
characteristics.
first song was like, it seemed like a pro rape song.
Right. But that's the thing is it's not. It's clearly,
Yeah.
through the view of a rapist.
Sure.
It's not,
Well, like Ween has the song Object, and that's obviously he's not going to murder a woman. It's just the idea
Right.
of like serial killer.
Yeah, it's like you're going, depiction is not
Yeah.
promotion,
No, it's
and
fantasy, just like
that's
a
one thing
horror
that's been very hurting in the arts in the last few years is that
Yeah.
any depiction all of a sudden is equals promotion.
Well, like I remember they were complaining that they were like Chucky. He's a woke killer. He's equal opportunity. But Michael Myers killed like a gay couple in one of the movies, and they didn't like that. And they were like, he's homophobic. And I'm like, he's a serial killer. Like, what are we doing here?
No, and like he that was a little like he even put the bodies like next to each other and cuddled
Yeah.
them, kind of thing. So it was like he treated him. He was that was his Michael's way of being woke, I guess. Is like I
Yeah.
killed you, but I'm a little empathetic to
I
your
never
plight.
saw it. I just saw the complaints. I'm like, is this really happening?
Yeah, no, that was dumb as shit.
Yeah.
Anyway, so somehow we got into Scott Weiland and then into Michael
I'm just saying
Myers.
his
No,
talk,
yeah,
his
yeah.
yeah, him
We're
talking
hitting
at
the
the end was
hole.
very
The
sad.
hole's in effect. But yeah, it was sad. And this episode was very sad for me because it was just like, okay, that's it. And this is the rest of your life like
Yeah.
this. And it was terrible. And
But
then,
he was a
but
piece of the 80s. He was definitely a big
there
piece of
was
the
a
80s.
sweet moment because he was a big hero of Mick Foley's early on, and then Mick Foley and him did a legendary death match,
And
and he sort of
Japan.
became a death match wrestler when that started to come up in
We
Japan.
also should say he's got two children. He's got a daughter in the wrestling business and a
Yes,
son. And they both don't use his last name. And this is interesting. And they're like, we just feel like we can't live up to our
right.
father. And I'm gonna say something very it's the truth as a casual wrestling fan. We've covered Brian Pillman, and I feel deeply for his son because he went through hell growing up,
Yeah,
losing his father and dealing with his crazy mom with her crazy boyfriends. But like he just I'm sorry to say this, like watching him, he tries, but like he just doesn't even come close to his father. And I understand like a lot, like I don't want to touch that, Even Jerry Lawler's son, Brian Christopher, who passed away, never went by Lawler either because you kind of know, like,
It just breeds comparison. Like everyone will just
yeah,
compare you.
yeah,
it's very hard. I mean, in sports, you see that a lot too. I mean, sometimes kids are better than their father, but a lot of times they're not good, and it's
right.
like, why aren't you like your father? It should be easy for you.
And then you just marry Scottie Pippen's ex-wife. That's what you
But
do.
I will say this: the kids deeply love their father, deeply.
They did. I always loved to see that too.
Yeah.
It wasn't like he was one of these assholes at home
No.
and causing a bunch of strife.
Well, like the
Unfortunately,
clown
I didn't
one
get to
was,
see him a
yeah.
lot though.
The clown one was tough because he wasn't there for his kids, and it was quite apparent. And a lot of the bulldog wasn't there. Dynamite Kid.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
But
yeah. But this was like, he seemed like a decent dude, and his kids loved him. Do you remember his son in WWE? Like he was,
no,
what
I
was he?
stopped
He
watching.
was, yeah, that was past my time too. He was
Yeah,
basically like a Fred Durst character or
I know.
something.
But again, like he's like, I couldn't use my father's last name because you know that you're judged by your father, and his father is a legend.
Yes.
Like he's a legend in this game and one of the most iconic tag teams and characters. And, him and the Von Erichs will always be like a special part of wrestling lore. And
They just kind of exemplify the 80s from what I gather. I wasn't
it
alive
is
back
a
then.
time capsule of the 80s.
Yeah.
I was thinking about that today. It's like it is the 80s with the Confederate flags, which is a no today, and just
Yeah.
the way they were and the music and how they were like the first like bad guy badasses. And they were a gang, and like Cornette said, like, if you hated that your girlfriend loved the Von Erichs, you could root for these badasses because they were the bad boys.
Right. It was just the perfect yang to the Von Erichs
Yeah.
yin.
I mean,
But
go on.
go ahead. Well, I just want to get back to that death match because when he wrestled
Yeah.
Mick Foley, and Mick Foley was like, it was like he just performed in this match like he was pre-accident, Terry
Yeah.
Gordy, and there were just great moments. And the post interview was just fantastic because that was
Sure.
definitely a super weak spot for him
Yeah.
after the coma. And then it was like almost like somebody that has Alzheimer's is like lucid for a minute.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh yeah. And they have this great moment. And then it just sort of goes back to the cloudy
Low, kinda, yeah.
brain version of him afterwards. But at least he had this like great moment though, before he passed later on of a heart attack. So
Yeah.
I feel like it's always ODs or heart attacks.
Well,
I mean-
yes. Usually, if you don't OD, you've done enough damage that will lead you to a heart
I mean,
attack.
I don't know
Yeah.
if they've ever done a study, but I would imagine that the wrestler's average life expectancy is probably in the 40s, the high 40s, low 50s, where even a football player is probably in the early 60s. I would say wrestling is one of those professions that the death expectancy is very young.
Well, we've definitely seen it, especially with high-profile wrestlers, probably because they were doing it all the time.
Pills.
It's
Yeah, and
it's way higher in professional wrestling.
oh, is
What would you
what
say
are
the
the
average
stats,
age of
Jimbo?
I'm
death
trying to say early deaths WWF versus professional sports leagues. So
Yeah.
it looks like they hit at around no matter what they're higher. So
Yeah,
10% in their 35 to 40 range.
that's crazy.
Meanwhile, NFL, which is probably the closest back,
Yeah.
is sitting at like
1.
to 5 like 3%,
Yeah,
like lower than that.
sure.
Yeah,
And then you go to the 45 to 50 range,
Mm.
10% again for the WWF. The highest is like the 50 to 55 discrepancy,
Yeah.
20%.
See, that's 1 out of
20%.
every
Wow.
5. That's
20% of professional wrestlers are dead before they hit 60.
That's insane.
well, that's combined with the 10% and the 2 10% from the lower demographics.
Yeah.
I would imagine so.
Well, yeah, I mean,
So that's a
yeah.
good 30 to 40%.
No, sorry. This is like specifically just 50 to 55. So these are guys who make it to 50 to 55.
Right. So you combine that with the other demographics, you're talking 40% are dead
Yeah.
by the time
Yeah.
like 55.
I mean, it's a
That's
tough life,
nuts.
and I watch 80s wrestling like to go to sleep, and you're watching, and you're like, all these guys are dead from the 80s and even the 90s. Most of them
Yeah,
are dead.
it's just it was not. I mean, there was an animal factory for Vince McMahon. It was a pure like
Hogan
circus.
keeps going though. The basis of Metallica, Hulk Hogan keeps going.
Dude, Ric Flair's still alive, which is
He's amazing.
it's crazy.
He looks like Joe Biden now.
Isn't he?
just-
But he's like in the hospital every other week though, isn't he? Like,
He just doesn't drink water, so it's fine.
He also masturbates like 20 times a day.
He's 75. Like, come on. Like, it's fine.
no, if he died now, you'd be like, okay, that's.
I mean, like, that
totally
makes
okay.
sense.
I mean,
that
like
totally
that,
makes
yeah.
sense.
In my
That's like a
opinion,
good
he's
life.
the
That's a good run
he's
for
the
him.
greatest wrestler of all time, in my opinion.
Flair.
Yeah, because I judge it too. Like, could you do it in every era? Like, there's certain guy like Hulk Hogan could not survive in certain eras, or his character, I guess.
Sure.
And number 2, I'm gonna say Shawn Michaels. Just
Okay,
for
but I'll say
how.
that. Hold on though.
Yeah.
But Ric Flair is number 1 for me because he flew a helicopter on a plane.
He also went in 2 plane crashes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're
It's 'cause
thinking of another
because he was
helicopter with. You're
Yeah,
thinking
because he's swinging that dick around. Probably
That went
hit
by
the pilot
fast.
in the
They were-
eye and
They
fucking.
were ready to cancel him like crazy, and then everybody just forgot
You
about it.
just can't cancel him.
No,
Sorry,
he's like
Ric
Michael
Flair,
Jackson.
No, when you
get
think
a
about
few of those,
Yeah. And when you like think about it, when it comes to the wrestling, like fucked up stories, everyone will just go back to Vince McMahon.
Yeah.
Yeah,
His stuff is way more fucked up.
Yes.
right.
I agree.
It's like when I check Twitter after like Diddy's compound gets raided, and they're like, well, what about Bill Clinton or what about and I'm like, wait, what? It's just
Look,
there's always someone
someday
worse.
they'll do a great documentary on Vince, and it'll just show how crazy he was, and it'll just be like him talking to Stephanie and his wife in the ring. And he's just like, "You shameful little bitch," and you're like, "This is how he talks to his daughter to get over." Like, he will do
I
anything.
could not find a clip of that, by the way. I really wanted to.
Oh, it's out there.
Well, if you find
And
it,
it's
send
out
it to
there
me.
when he called John Cena the N-word. That's one of the best ever. He goes, "What's good in the hood?"
Oh, that
Oh,
one's amazing.
I think we played that on here. Actually.
Yeah. And then Booker T goes, "What did he?" I mean, it's a great
We
moment.
played that clip for sure.
You shameful little bitch.
Do we know who's up next week on Dark
Oh,
Side?
Brutus the Barber Beefcake,
Oh,
Oh, I like
who
that.
got in a
Simon.
terrible motorcycle accident.
who's
And I guess
still
it's gonna be
alive?
Yeah.
with his wife,
Oh, he
right?
looks like
He's
shit
always
now.
appearing
Yeah.
with his wife on these.
He's very good
Yeah.
friends with Hulk Hogan. He's one of the most, when I remember, like a very below average wrestler in the ring, but was so lucky
Yes.
that Hulk Hogan was his best friend.
Well, he had like I remember him because it made me feel weird watching him because I could see the side of his butt when he
Yeah,
wrestled.
he
He
would
had
do
those,
these tights where the holes in them.
yeah,
Like
on
he
the
had like
side of his
mesh.
legs and his butt
Yeah.
cheek and stuff.
Oh
I'm like,
yeah.
I don't know how to feel about this.
I got turned on.
I'm sure you did.
I bet you
Yeah.
did.
Yeah, they should
He's
have
still
arrested
going
you.
though.
They
He's
should
in
have
his
raided your
70s.
compound, not
Yeah.
Diddy's. Yeah.
Well, it's funny because he was Brutus Beefcake, and then like they were like, "You're gonna be a haircut guy. You're Brutus the Barber Beefcake."
Hell of
Yeah.
a nickname.
Well, he would have these giant clippers, and then he would like he'd beat a guy, and then he'd cut his hair off a little. And
Yeah.
it's funny that wrestling announcers, when he was a bad guy, it was like, "This is a disgrace" when he's cutting a guy's
Oh,
hair
yeah.
off, and then he would do it as a good guy, and he'd be like, "Look at him go! This is great."
Well, it was funny because he brought in like hedge clippers
Oh, they were
into the
big.
ring, but then he would cut their hair with just these little tiny scissors at the end. I want to
Cutting and
see,
strutting,
he should-
cutting and strutting.
but he had two nicknames. You had the barber and the beefcake.
Yeah,
You know, it couldn't be just one. It
no.
could be a beefcake or a barber. Imagine if it was just Brutus the barber. Like that would be so fucking stupid.
I think his
Brutus
real
the
name
barber
is Ed.
beefcake.
I
Yeah,
think his
now we're
real name is
talking.
Ed Leslie. I think that's his real name.
Ed Leslie.
Yeah, we'll find out this Tuesday. I have it, like I can watch it right now because I have.
I can already hear Jericho going. Ed Leslie was growing up in.
I think San Francisco grew up.
SF.
Yeah, but him and Hogan were like best buddies, and that helped him a lot. You know, it kept him going because Hogan would always use him, you know, as a tag team partner or push him, and you know,
Yeah.
Hogan was the man. So what Hogan wanted,
Mm-hmm.
not
All
very
right.
good wrestler though.
Well, anything to add to this episode here before
No, it was a good one.
shut her out?
I can't wait for the Sandman. That's what I'll say. Like that's gonna be.
Yeah, that's. I feel like that one's
That's-
just teasing everyone. Are they waiting
Yeah.
until the end
Yeah.
with that one or what?
It's kind of like the Marty Jannetty where it's like, you know, and I think I told you guys that my Sandman story, right?
Yeah, you saw him walking on the street after the.
In like the worst neighborhood. So it was literally like 6 blocks from where we saw it, and he was like walking with his cane, bloody, drinking a beer, smoking a cigarette in the streets, and we're like, "That's the Sandman."
Wait, he had like his big bamboo stick with him?
Yes.
That's awesome.
You
Well,
think he
like you
took out
could
a
tell when he was
gang that
wrestling,
night?
he was hammered.
God. I cannot fucking wait.
Yeah.
Cannot fucking wait. All right, guys. Well, Jim will have great UFL news.
Good luck, buddy.
Next
Good luck.
It's
on
going to be a
Saturday.
great week.
Have a
I
great
pray the
week.
ratings are high for real.
Yeah, and we'll
That's
be talking,
important.
of course, more March Madness. We'll be talking about Brutus the Barber Beefcake and a bunch of other bullshit.
We'll be down to the final 4 by
Oh.
Tuesday.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
All
you guys want to
next-
predict who's going to be in the Final Four before we go?
Well, all my final 4 are left. I have Marquette, North Carolina, UConn, and I think Tennessee, but I could be wrong.
I'm going to go Houston.
All my final 4s are left.
I'm going to go UConn, Illinois, North Carolina, Tennessee.
Wait a minute. Does it
Tennessee.
You kind of
Oh, right. Sorry. Yeah. It'd be UConn, North Carolina, Tennessee, and
I gotta piss, boys.
Houston. That's my prediction.
all right.
I'm gonna pee. I love you guys.
All right. You too, sweetheart. UConn. I'm gonna go UConn, Houston, North Carolina. I'm gonna go Creighton.
Ooh,
Just to be crazy.
I like it.
Just to be.
I don't think
fucking
Creighton's ever
crazy.
made the Final Four, so this would be big for them.
It's time. They got to step up. They've been knocking on the door for.
I don't
years.
know if they've made the Elite Eight ever. They might have once.
I don't know. The fact that I even know them as a basketball school tells me they should be. It's their time. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll see you next week for another edition of the Sports Hole.
Sports Hole!
Bye.